and actions on the ground have only aggravated the situation rather than promoting a peaceful and lasting solution. Instead of bringing the member of a state together, the resolution may further polarize them, potentially worsening the conflict in Ukraine. We believe that any resolution to this issue must be based on a thorough and unbiased assessment of the situation and underlying cause of the conflict, and must consider all relevant factors and perspectives. It is also critical that all parties involved demonstrate a genuine commitment to reaching a peaceful resolution and take concrete steps in that direction. In the light of these concerns, our delegation has decided to abstain from voting on this resolution. Nonetheless, we remain committed to working toward a peaceful and sustainable resolution of the conflict, and we stand ready to engage in constructive dialogue and cooperation with all parties to achieve this important goal. Mr. President, I would like to address the reference made to my country by the representative of the Israeli regime during the general debate yesterday. Indeed, Iran-phobic campaign and widespread systematic dissemination of disinformation and baseless allegations against Iran have always been one of the main elements of the statement by the Israeli regime in this august body. The Israeli regime cannot conceal its brutalities in Palestine or distract attention away from its long-standing malign activities and demoniac policies in other countries. The Israeli regime is notorious for its atrocities and apartheid policies against the people of Palestine and region, by targeting and killing innocent people, including women and children, in occupied Palestine. The Israeli regime continues to commit flagrant and systematic violation of human rights and all norms of international humanitarian law, especially the core crimes of genocide, crime against humanity, war crime, and crime of aggression. In this regard, we strongly condemn the Israeli regime's recent terrorist attack early on Sunday, 19 February, against a civilian residential building in the densely populated district of the central Damascus, which continued a flagrant violation of international humanitarian law and endangering regional and international peace and security. The international community must strongly condemn such attacks and compel the Israeli regime to end all acts of aggression against Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity immediately. Possessing all types of the weapons of mass destruction, as well as the most sophisticated conventional weapons, the Israeli regime continues to endanger peace and security in the region and beyond, and at the same time reasonably defies constant strong international call to join internationally legally binding instruments banning weapons of mass destruction. Nevertheless, it attempts to portray Iran's conventional weapons capabilities or its exclusively peaceful nuclear program as a challenge to the regional stability. Mr. President, while we reiterate our commitment to ongoing bilateral cooperation with Ukraine and Russian Federation, my government categorically rejects unsubstantiated claims that Iran has transferred unmanned aerial vehicles for use in Ukraine conflict. Such claims are nothing more than a propaganda campaign used by certain states to advance their political agenda. Iran is willing to engage in constructive bilateral technical and expert exchange with Ukrainian experts in order to clarify the unsubstantiated allegation leveled against it. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the distinguished representative of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Romania.
Mr. President, Romania aligns itself with the statement delivered yesterday by the High Representative of the European Union, Mr. Borrell, on behalf of the European Union and its member states. I would like to add some points in my national capacity. what we wish for on the cusp of the one-year mark since the start of Russia's fully-fledged war of aggression against Ukraine is very simple. Peace for the people of Ukraine, victory of principles and values, and one less bloody conflict for the world. But what we are still witnessing is very different. We continue to see an alarming level of hostilities with no sign of abatement, with unimaginable sufferings for the civilian population and dire and long-lasting consequences. The human rights and humanitarian consequences of the Russian Federation's aggression against Ukraine, including the continuous attacks against its critical infrastructure, are particularly worrying. No less cruel are reports of the atrocities committed on the territory of Ukraine, for which we must ensure accountability. This continued aggression undermines the core of the rules-based international order and effective multilateralism, and remains a matter of concern for the international community. The hybrid war proliferated by Russia, even more intense through fake news, disinformation, and malign interferences, aims not only to destabilize the region and the most vulnerable states, as the Republic of Moldova, but also to undermine our unity, mutual trust, and solidarity. The Russian Federation is testing the resolve of the world to stand up for its norms and values. By attacking the basic principles enshrined in the UN Charter, the Russian Federation, as a permanent member of the Security Council, is also attacking the very foundation of the international peace and security. The stakes of this conflict are clear to all of us, and the world has to send a clear message. There is no justification for bloodshed, destruction, and human suffering. We need the full force, determination, and legitimacy of the General Assembly to reaffirm that international law matters, that the Charter matters, and that we stand by the rules put in place for the protection of every single member state of this organization. The upcoming vote on the resolution in front of us, which we must adopt with the largest possible majority, is an opportunity to reaffirm our support for Ukraine and the Ukrainian people, and to call for a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace in Ukraine based on the principles of the UN Charter and international law. Mr. President, Romania has been at the forefront of countering all multidimensional effects of this war since day one. Romania is also fully engaged in international efforts to end Russia's impunity. We are also a strong supporter of the efforts to seek accountability for all crimes committed in Ukraine. The perpetrators must pay, and our collective efforts must be efficient in this regard, as Ukraine seeks the justice it deserves. We support the establishment of a special tribunal for the crime of aggression in relation with the situation in Ukraine. Romania has stood by Ukraine, our direct neighbor, during this whole year of the Russian aggression. A multidimensional effort has been ongoing for the past year to accelerate the transfer of around 13 million tons Ukrainian grain, I repeat, 13 million, 1-3, through Romanian territory. These have reached countries in the global south that have been greatly impacted by the increase in global food prices and that have been already facing food insecurity. The Romanian port of Constanța at the Black Sea has become the main gateway for Ukrainian grain shipments, a real food hub at the European level, a direct effort to contribute to ensuring global food security. With the same goal, we have also advocated and we hope for a continuation of the Black Sea Grain Initiative. Around 3.6 million Ukrainian citizens have entered Romania so far. Among these, over 110,000 remained. We have offered humanitarian aid to those in need. We have also set up a humanitarian hub, and all this to reduce the suffering and help Ukrainians to defend and build their way to peace. Mr. President, what we all want is peace. This was made clear today and yesterday by countless delegations. A comprehensive, just, and lasting peace. A peace that does not reward the aggressor. A peace based on the principles of the UN Charter, which we have bravely stood up for in the past. And peace in Ukraine cannot be restored by inaction. As a matter of urgency, the Russian Federation must reserve its illegal actions and unconditionally withdraw its military forces from the territory of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders. And this call is what the resolution before us delivers. We have the power to unite around this text. Romania supports the draft text, is one of the co-sponsors, and calls on the whole UN membership to vote in favor of this resolution for a just and lasting peace in Ukraine based on the principles of the UN Charter. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the distinguished representative of Romania. Now I give the floor to the distinguished representative of the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance.
Mr. President, Excellencies, it has been 1 year since the Russian Federation launched its illegal war against Ukraine. 1 year of aggression, of war crimes, of crimes against humanity. 1 year of brutality against the basic principles of the UN Charter, against the promise of democratic rights and freedoms, against the international rules-based order and respect for the sovereign equality of all member states. 1 year of death, displacement, and devastation occurring each day in territories invaded by Russia and reviewed in areas recovered by Ukraine. International IDEA reiterates its condemnation of Russia's illegitimate and immoral war against Ukraine and urges the immediate and unequivocal withdrawal of all Russian military forces from Ukrainian territory. Until this occurs, we welcome the adoption, enforcement, and continued escalation of sanctions by the international community against the Russian Federation. Ultimately, the responsibility of the Russian Federation must be addressed in accordance with General Assembly Resolution 60/147 and Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This accountability is a matter of international law, and rule of law must and shall prevail. We encourage the UN Secretary General to continue working to advance ceasefire talks and to support increased humanitarian access to the war-affected areas and protection of civilians. The resolution being debated today calls for a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace in Ukraine. Such an objective is inextricably connected to the democratic ambitions of the Ukrainian people. As International IDEA has noted previously, this conflict is about democracy as much as it is about sovereignty. Over many years, and despite many obstacles, Ukrainians have repeatedly affirmed their commitment to democratic values. The result has been steady improvement across a variety of democratic indicators, including respect for media freedoms, the fight against corruption, and the conduct of free and fair elections as measured by international ideas, indices, and reports. Today, this hard-won progress hangs in the balance. But let us be clear, Ukrainians have chosen democracy. There's a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace in Ukraine must be a democratic peace determined by and for Ukrainians. Support from the international community should reflect this democratic imperative. Among the needs of a post-war Ukraine, democracy support and the defense of human rights will be crucial. Excellencies, the outcome of this institutional process will reverberate far beyond Ukraine. It is a test of the defense and rebuilding of inclusive and sustainable democracy as a guarantor of rights for both people and nations. In this effort, we should not lose sight of the need to enable a path for democracy to return to Russia as well, as part of securing a lasting and regional and global peace. We must say clearly, a democratic Russia would have not unleashed this tragedy. Advancing democracy is the single best way to build and guarantee global peace. Ukrainians are putting their lives on the line every day to defend the values that we claim to hold, the values of the UN Charter, of sovereignty, human rights, and multilateralism, helping them to preserve a future for Ukrainian democracy will be our greatest tribute to them. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance. Now I give the floor to Her Excellency Annalena Baerbock, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Germany.
Esteemed colleagues, 45 seconds. 45 seconds to get your grandmother to safety. 45 seconds to make it to the basement. 45 seconds. That's how long it takes for missiles from Russia to hit the city of Kharkiv after you hear the sirens. I met teenagers in Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine for whom counting to 45 has become part of their daily life. Teenagers, grandmothers, fathers who want nothing more than for this war to end, to have peace. Russia's war of aggression has not only brought terrible suffering to the people of Ukraine. This war has opened gaping wounds across the world. Families on all continents who cannot make ends meet because of rising food and energy prices. I think all of them and most of us here agree on one simple thing. We want the suffering to stop in Ukraine and worldwide. We want this war to end. We want peace. And the good thing is, we do have a peace plan right here in front of us. It's called the Charter of the United Nations. Its principles, which apply to every state, are very simple. Sovereign equality, territorial integrity, and the non-use of force. That's why the road to peace is also very clear. Russia must withdraw its troops from Ukraine. Russia must stop the bombing. Russia must return to the UN Charter. Each and every one of us here today has an opportunity to contribute to this peace plan by telling the aggressor to stop, by making clear that it's not peace if an aggressor tells its victim to simply give up, that it's not peace if an aggressor is rewarded for its ruthless violence. This would run counter to the very essence of our United Nations Charter. It would not mean peace, but more violence. That's why we are supporting Ukraine in its right to defend itself as enshrined in Article 51 of the UN Charter. I've heard also today some of you who said that by arming Ukraine, we are adding fuel to the fire. Let me ask you honestly, why on earth would we do that? We did not want this war. We did not choose this war. We too would much rather focus every bit of our energy and also of our money on fixing our schools, on fighting climate crisis, on strengthening social justice. But the truth is, if Russia stops fighting, this war ends. If Ukraine stops fighting, Ukraine ends. And the human suffering would continue every single day. Abduction, rape, torture. Children counting to 45 every single day to save their lives. The war's global trade of devastation would continue. Inflation, energy shortages, hunger. That's why today's vote is also about all of our futures. Today, each and every one of us here has to choose. To stand isolated with the oppressor or to unite for peace. To stay silent or to protect our UN Charter so that the Charter can protect us. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished Minister for Foreign Affairs of Germany. We have heard the last speaker in the debate on this item. We shall proceed to consider draft resolution A/ES11/L7 and draft amendments A/ES11/L8 and A/ES11/L9, starting with the explanation of vote before the vote at 3 o'clock sharp. This meeting is adjourned.